Welcome to the Deliberate Leaders podcast. I am your host, Allison Dunn, and today we have the awesome author and executive coach, Marshall Goldsmith. Marshall is consistently ranked among the top executive coaches in the world, and I'm super just honored to be able to have you have time with you today. Some of his other accolades include...
Thank you for asking me.
Absolutely, my pleasure. You are the only person in the world to win the Thinkers 50 Award for the #1 leadership thinker twice. That's actually hard to say. He is also a professor, speaker, and author, and his books include one of my top book recommendations, which is What Got You Here Won't Get You There, as well as Mojo, Triggers, and I think dozens and dozens of others, which I could go on. So 41 total. That's incredible. Marshall, thank you so much for joining.
I have 6 bestsellers, and the other 35 were purchased by my mother, my father, and assorted relatives.
We have to count on family to come through for us to make us look good. That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. One of the things that I love most about your book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There, is it's so incredibly relevant around the things that we need to learn to stop doing. Wouldn't you agree?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Peter Drucker taught me that. He said, we spend a lot of time teaching leaders what to do. We do not spend enough time teaching leaders what to stop. He said, half the leaders I've met, they don't need to learn what to do. They need to learn what to stop. Well, that one suggestion led to the book.
That's fantastic. So when you think about things that leaders need to stop doing, what are the top 4 or 5 habits that you would say that they just need to just stop doing?
Number one in the book, I was interviewed in the Harvard Business Review and asked, what's the #1 problem of all the successful people you work with over the years? And the answer was winning too much. Now, what does that mean? If it's important, we want to win. If it's meaningful, we want to win. If it's critical, we want to win. If it's trivial, we want to win. And if it's not worth it, we want to win anyway. Winners love winning. So in the game of life, everyone I work with is a winner.
Right.
Most people you work with are winners. Mm-hmm. It's hard for winners not to constantly win. So I have a case study I use in my classes. You want to go to dinner at restaurant X. Your husband, wife, friend, or partner wants to go to dinner at restaurant Y. You have a heated argument. You go to restaurant Y. It's not your choice. The food tastes awful and the service is terrible. Option A, you could critique the food, point out your partner was wrong, and this mistake could have been avoided had only you listened to me. Or option B, shut up, eat the stupid food, try to enjoy it, and have a nice evening. What would I do? What should I do? Almost all my clients, what would I do? Critique the food. What should I do? Shut up. Well, it's very hard for smart, successful people not to constantly go through life winning. You know, I have at Dartmouth, I was teaching my class, and I gave this example. You have a hard day at work. You come home, your wife, husband, or partner says, I had such a hard day. If we're not careful, we say, you had a hard day. You had a hard day. You have any idea what I had to put up with today? Do you think you had a hard day? We're so competitive, we have to prove we're more miserable than the people we live with. I gave this example at Dartmouth.
Guilty.
A young guy raised his hand. He said, I did that last week. So I asked him, what happened? He said, my wife looked at me. She said, honey, you just think you've had a hard day. It's not over.
I think we've all been guilty.
Hard.
Mm-hmm.
Second one is adding too much value.
Okay.
I'm young, smart, enthusiastic. You're my boss. I come to you with an idea. You think it's a great idea. Rather than just saying great idea, our natural tendency is to say, well, that's a nice idea. Why don't you add this to it? Mm-hmm. The problem is the quality of the idea may go up this much. My commitment to execution may go down that much. Why? It's no longer my idea, boss. Now it's your idea. Very hard for smart, successful people not to constantly go through life adding too much value. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the bottom problems revolve around classic challenges that smart people have. Smart people in your life, you've taken test after test after test. It's very hard not to prove how smart we are over and over again. We've been reinforced for doing this thousands of times in our lives. It's hard to stop doing.
I would agree with that. Okay, so it's adding too much value, being too smart, winning, and what would be your fourth one, would you say?
And too much judging.
Judging.
Yeah. Too much judging other people. One thing I always try to teach is, and it's good for family even more than work. Help more, judge less.
I completely agree. So I think I almost feel like some of those overlap a little bit. And so when you're trying to encourage someone who likes to win, who's highly competitive, who likes to add that extra value, like what's the balance of that for someone? And how can we self-recognize when it's happening? Because I think it's almost a physiological thing you see in someone else that maybe we often don't recognize.
Well, very simple. I'm not going to give you an answer. I'm going to give you a question.
I love that.
Before speaking, breathe. And just ask a question, is it worth it? See, one of my coaching clients was J.P. Garnier. He was the CEO of GlaxoSmithKline. So I said, what did you learn from me as your coach that helped you the most? He said, you taught me one lesson, helped me be a better leader and have a happier life. I said, what was it? He said, before I speak, breathe and just say, is it worth it? And he said, as the CEO of GlaxoSmithKline, 50% of the time I've had the discipline to stop and breathe and say, is it worth it? What did I decide? Am I right? Maybe. Is it worth it? No. So for 9 years, I trained the admirals in the U.S. Navy. What's the first thing I teach the admirals? When you get that star, your suggestions become orders. Admirals don't give suggestions. They're orders. You give a suggestion or, oh, yes, sir. They go do it. Well, it's very important to breathe and say, is what I'm saying really worth it? As opposed to that instinct to just talk.
I think in all circumstances, before we ever respond to anything, we should all just breathe and think, is it worth it? Even if you're not even adding value, right? It's just a good life lesson.
Well, in my book, Triggers, I have a great question to ask before you deal with any topic. Peter Drucker said, our mission in life is to make a positive difference, not to prove how smart we are and not to prove how right we are. We get so lost in proving how smart and right we are, we forget we're not here on earth to prove that we're smart or right. We're here to make a difference, positive difference. Before you speak, breathe and ask yourself, am I willing at this time to make the investment required to make a positive difference on this topic? If the answer is yes, do it. If the answer is no, let it go. We waste so much of our lives on things we're not going to change anyway. Example, my condo in New York, one of my neighbors was a young woman, Lindsay Lohan. Have you ever heard of Lindsay Lohan before?
Yes, I have.
How many millions of hours have been wasted people reading that? Lindsay Lohan got drunk. Lindsay Lohan got stoned. Lindsay Lohan was in a car wreck. Well, don't waste your life on Lindsay Lohan and Donald Trump and the athletic team and all that other nonsense. You want to have a great life, live your own life. And what I always tell people is, if you ever think my neighbor Lindsay Lohan is a loser, remember one thing. She's not wasting her life reading about you.
That is, too true, right? One of the things that I remember you speaking at a conference about, and I don't remember if it was in reference to triggers or what got you here won't get you there, is what techniques do you use to modify behaviors that aren't working for executives? Yes. So what challenges do you give them that have been effective?
Well, what I do is I interview everyone around my clients and I write very detailed report about what they're doing well and what they need to do better, confidential 360-degree feedback, average of 18 key stakeholders in my case. Then they pick what's most important to improve. If they're not the CEO needs to approve it. If they are the CEO, the board needs to approve it. And then they're taught to talk to people and say, one-on-one, I got this feedback. Thank you. Here's what I feel great about. Thank you for the good comments. I don't know who said what, but I got a lot of good feedback. And then here's what I want to get better at. And for example, I want to be a better listener. Then they apologize. If I haven't listened to you or the other people in the past, I'm sorry. Please accept my apologies. No excuse. Don't make excuses. Just apologize. And then feed forward. Ask for how they can do better in the future, not feedback in the past. And say, I want to be a better listener in the future. Give me ideas to help me. And then whatever the person says, sit there, shut up, listen, take notes, say thank you. Don't judge and critique. Never promise to do everything people say, because leadership's not a popularity contest. So I'd say, Miss Coworker, I can't do everything everyone says. I'm going to listen and follow up and do what I can. I can't change everything. I can get better at this. And I'm going to follow up with you and ask you to help me get better. Very, very simple process. And then I teach people to follow up on a regular basis. And as I said, I don't get paid if they don't get better. And better is not judged by me or my client. It's judged by everyone around my client.
Can I share a quick personal story with you about that particular piece of feedback? So my husband and I were driving in his truck, and I made several comments on the directions, the turn, the need to stop, and it was not contributing to the loveliness of our Sunday afternoon. So once we arrived at the restaurant, he sat across from me and I was like, "Are you okay?" And he was not. He was very displeased with me. And I was so taken aback I thought I was right in all of the instances of what I'd pointed out, because one was an emotional reaction, one was just a suggestion, and whatever, right? Adding value. And our compromise on that was, well, thank you for that feedback. And I would like and ask if going forward, at any time while driving in the car together, if I overstep that bound again, would you kindly point it out so that I can be aware of it and will make me more aware going forward? Do you want to know how many times he's had to say something to me in the last 3 years? Twice. That's your one warning. This is your one warning. And I'm like, okay. Like, I really didn't understand it, but I needed him to show me.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
And you know what? All those little directional corrections probably made 3 minutes difference. Who cares?
Truly. You know what? It's just such wise advice, hindsight, right?
Yeah. Let go.
Let it go. I love it. One of the things that we talk about is when to not, how to stop or start saying no, but, and however, those like combination words.
Right.
How do you suggest people reframe their thoughts so that it can be additive in a positive way?
It is very important. One of the great people I worked with was General Eric Shinseki, head of the U.S. Army, 4-star general. So we're in a room surrounded by 2 to 4-star generals. So he says to me, "Marshall, who's your favorite customer?" I said, "Sir, my favorite customer is smart, dedicated, hardworking, driven to achieve, creative, entrepreneurial, cares about the company and customers, great values, high integrity, and is a stubborn, opinionated know-it-all that never wants to be wrong." I said, "Sir, do you think any of the generals in this very room may fit such a description?" He said, "Marshall, we have a target-rich opportunity." Well, this is great for stubborn people. No, but, however, because if the first word out of our mouth is no, what do you say? Shut up. But. What does but or however mean? Disregard everything you said. As you know, I find my clients $20 every time they do this, and I give the money to charity. So one of my clients is stubborn. I'm reviewing his report. He goes, "But Marshall," I said, 20. He said, "No, 40. No, 68, 100. He lost $420 in an hour and a half. At the end of the hour and a half, though, he said, "Thank you." He said, "I had no idea. I did that 21 times with you throwing it in my face. In an hour and a half, 21 times. How many times would I have done it had you not been throwing that in my face? 50 times, 100 times? He said, "No wonder people think I'm stubborn." He got so much better at being a good listener just learning that. People say, "Well, what should I start a sentence with?" Anything else. There's only 3 words there. No, but, however. Skip those.
Hundreds of other
There's
thousands.
a lot of other words. Thousands of other words. Just pick something else. Don't use those.
Yeah. Oh, that's such good advice. So fining, does that work? Fining people as a behavioral change?
I find my clients, I've raised over $1 million for charity, finding people for stuff.
That's awesome.
And they hate losing money. So my clients, I charge them $20 for every cent. $20. These are rich people, mostly, not all, but they're mostly just rich people anyway, right? 20, and the money goes to a charity they pick. So one guy, I'm going, $20, $40, $60. He goes, this is expensive. I said, excuse me, you made $35 million last year. There's $20 to a little homeless child. Shut up. You're right. I'm an ass. Take 50. The worst story occurred in India. So I'm coaching Mr. GM Rao. I don't know if you've ever been to Delhi, but he built the airport there in Delhi, India. And so I'm coaching him. And Bill Gates flew to India with Warren Buffett to talk rich people into giving money to the poor. So my friend, Mr. Jim Rao, makes a $340 million donation to poor people in India for his charity. $340 million. Really generous man. 2 days later, I'm coaching him. Same charity, $20. He goes, this is expensive. I said, excuse me, you donated $340 million to the charity 2 days ago. Now you're complaining about $20. I said, what is wrong with you? And then he goes, oh, I forgot. I love it. I forgot. Well, the difference is him in front of Bill Gates and Warren Buffett and every newspaper in India, writing a check for $340 million and giving it to charity. You know what that's called? Winning. $20. Losing.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about $20.
No.
He doesn't care about $340 million.
Yeah.
I like to lose.
Oh my goodness.
It's hard for winners to lose.
I can see that.
Yeah.
When other than money, like the money game, because I would consider that a game, right? You're winning or losing of that. What are the most effective training techniques that you've used for your clients when trying to break bad habits or new habits, I guess, for that matter? I mean, it's 2020, New Year.
I'm a great believer in feed forward. Everybody learns to ask for ideas for the future. So in feed forward, you have I did this in Russia, by the way, with 50,000 people in one stadium. We did the experiential activity of feed forward. 50,000 people at once is amazing. It was in a football stadium, and it worked. They loved it. So how does feed forward work? You learn to say, my name is, I want to get better at, please give me ideas to help me. And then you ask for ideas for the future, not feedback about the past. You don't argue, you don't put people down. You say, thank you. You treat it like a gift. So if you give me a gift, should I say stinky gift, bad gift, I don't like your gift? No, say thank you. You don't have to use the gift. You always thank people for the gift. And my friend Hubert Joly is CEO of Best Buy. He was ranked number 2 CEO in America last year. And he has every employee in the company do this. He says, any of them, you can say, what do you want to get better at? My name is Jim. I need to be better at. Please give me ideas. It's a great idea. It gets everybody out of that ego, and we're all trying to improve and help each other. And so I think it's a really good idea.
I run engagement and leadership programs, and one of the modules to that is giving and receiving feedback. And it is amazing how many people truly have not received feedback, and they're really uncomfortable in giving it as a gift. Yeah.
Well, that's why I like feed forward, because feed forward is focused on the future.
Right.
It's not what you did wrong, it's what you can do better.
Yeah, and I think it does give it a completely different perspective of going forward, how can I do better, or what can I do to help the team kind of thing. So yeah, it's beautiful. Under kind of the management theme of my questions, you've shown through research that consistent follow-through is essential for leadership training to actually improve a manager's effectiveness. Okay?
Right.
So what are the best ways that a leader can follow up with either their people that they supervise, their husband, or their coach to find out if those changes if they're making the changes necessary?
Well, let's start with the family, and then we'll go to the work.
Good, because I can take the family one.
The family dimension, I always ask people in my classes, do you believe customer satisfaction is important? They go, oh, yes. Should we ask our customers for input? Oh, should we listen? Yes. Then I always say, have you been asking your husband or wife, what can I do to be a better partner? Total silence. Well, it's good to do at work, and it's better to do at home. Get in the habit of asking your husband or wife, how can I be better? And they may say, dear, you have no room for improvement, but as you learn, that's highly unlikely.
Right.
We've all got a little room for improvement there. And, and it's good to do with your kids. When my daughter Kelly was 11 and my son Brian was 9, I began asking my children a question: what can I do to be a better father? problem with asking a question is you get the answer. My daughter Kelly said, Daddy, you travel a lot. That's not what bothers me. What bothers me is the way you act when you come home. Talk on the phone, you watch sports, you don't spend time with me. And she said, one time it was Saturday and I wanted to go to a party at my friend's house and Mommy didn't let me go. I had to stay home and spend time with you. But then she said, you spent no time with me and that wasn't right. What could I say? Thank you. So what happened is I started measuring how many days I spent 4 hours with my kids. 4 hours. Okay. No TV, no movies with the kids. 4 hours interacting. 1991, 92 days. 1992, 110 days. 1993, 131. 1994, 135. I made more money the year I spent 135 days as far as with the family than the year I spent 20 days. What did I learn?
Yeah.
San Diego Chargers, they don't care about me.
No. You made more money. I think that's an important element to kind of bring out, that we work so hard constantly, right? What is it about that shift that you believe created that energy or that flow for you in your business?
Well, I mean, I didn't make more money because I spent time with the family. The point is, the time I was spending with the family wasn't time I was investing in business anyway. It was just nonsense, watching the sports or TV or some ridiculous, meaningless stuff, right? So I just got rid of that. And that's what really made the difference. So I'm now very sensitive about how I spend my time. And I had this daily question process, which we can talk about later. But one of my daily questions is, the time I spend on low priority activities. And so every day I start trying to figure out, how can I avoid spending time on things that really, they don't matter. And it's so easy, like with the internet, it's the worst. Do you ever you go to Google, you can look something up, it takes 3 minutes. 3 hours later, you're still online. You don't even know why you went online in the first place, right? Well, all these little triggers is URLs, you're zooming around here. You forgot why you went online in the first place. Yeah. It's very hard in today's high stimulus world to have the discipline to ask yourself, is this a good use of my time? And so much of it isn't. Right. By the way, people have spent millions of dollars in an effort to get you addicted to media.
For sure.
Very good at it. Not millions, billions. And they are good at it. They are very good at it. And it is hard not to become addicted. A few years ago, I wrote 20 years ago, I wrote an article that said within 20 years, media addiction will surpass drug addiction and alcohol addiction combined as a social problem. We're already there.
Oh,
media
for sure.
Is a huge issue. The average kid that's flunking out of school spends 55 hours a week on non-academic media.
Wow.
Videos, games, just nonsense. So it's very important to realize this stuff is addictive and to have the discipline to say, wait a minute, why am I doing this?
Right.
Why am I doing a Google search for the net worth of Lindsay Lohan? Who cares? Right? Why am I doing this? Right?
I think bringing kind of home the question, which was the consistency part of it. And I want to go back to just commend you when you said, using a home example of the time with your children, what you did in 1991, how many hours, and you started to track it, right? So the consistency of knowing, setting the goal of what you wanted to achieve, and then actually measuring it, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Well, if you don't measure it, you probably won't do it, or you'll delude yourself.
That you're doing it, yeah.
Yeah, you will delude ourselves to believing you're doing it. But if you don't measure it, then when you measure it, it's sobering. You realize how little you actually do, and how our fantasy of how we spend our time seldom has anything to do with how we really spend our time.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, and then it's also good with your parents. Ask your, I was teaching a class and a woman said, there's always something you've left out. She said, I've been to your class twice and read everything you ever wrote, and there's always something you left out. She said, she asks people to do this with their parents.
I'm sorry, with their what? I missed that part.
With your parents.
With your parents.
Mom and dad.
Yeah, mom and dad.
So she said, I went to your class and then I asked my daughter, how could I be a better mother? And we had such a nice conversation. And she said, my daughter asked me, how can I be a better daughter? I thought I should call my mother. So I called my mother and said, what can I do to be a better daughter? And mom said, Dad's dead. I live in the country, and every day I take a long walk up the road to go to the mailbox, and almost every day there's nothing in the mailbox.
Oh.
And it makes me so lonely. She said it would mean so much to me if you send me a picture, a card or something. So when I walked to the mailbox, I'd see something in the mailbox. Mm-hmm. She started sending her mother a little picture every day. What did it cost her? Nothing. What did it mean to her mother? Maybe.
Yeah.
A few years later, she sent me an email. She said, my mother just died. Mm-hmm. The last thing her mother told her before she died was, thank you for doing that. So if your parents are alive, this is good to do for 3 reasons. 1, it's good for them. 2, it's good for you. Mm-hmm. Big regret kids have when mom and dad dies. Why didn't I thank them for the nice things they did to help me? Why did I judge them all the time? And 3, if you have little children, it's good for your kids.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Marshall.
Because, those old people you call them on the phone, you're going to be those old people.
Yes, for sure. That's very beautiful. I love that. One of the things that I was thinking about today is that the whole leadership, and today we have a complete remote, a significant remote workforce that has not existed in decades before. So something like 1 in 5 companies today have completely remote workers.
Yes.
From a coaching standpoint, from a leadership challenge, what do you see companies need to do when you're not in that face-to-face relationship where it is remote?
Right. Well, and most of my coaching is remote. Mm-hmm. I mean, the people I coach are CEOs of multi-billion-dollar companies. Given my calendar and their calendar, if we had to be in person for every meeting, it would be impossible.
Truly.
So it's almost all remote. Mm-hmm. And so what do? You use a telephone. You use, like we're doing.
Right, Zoom.
Conference, video conference, telephone. There's all kinds of things you can do, and you really don't need to be in person for everything.
I would agree with that. I think I think utilizing every resource that you have is obviously the key to making it successful.
Yeah.
Again,
most of my one-on-one coaching is done by video conference, by phone, whatever.
Neat. So, personal question. If you could ask any leader, live, living today or dead, any question, what would you ask? Who would you ask, and what would you ask them?
Buddha.
Buddha.
I'm a philosophical Buddhist. So I'd say, Buddha, how did you figure this stuff out so well?
That's awesome. What would he say, you think?
I don't know.
That's awesome. All right. So my favorite topic, let's talk about executive coaching. Okay.
Okay.
You said that the number 1 rule for coaching is, do you know what your number 1 rule is?
Great clients.
Well, I would agree. For me, and you, it would have great clients. My takeaway on something that I read was, don't waste your time if a client doesn't want to change.
The same thing.
Which I think you were absolutely correct. That
have
is the
great
same thing.
clients and avoid bad clients. It's all the same. Yeah, I was in my coaching, as I said, I don't get paid if they don't get better. The client I spent the most amount of time with didn't improve at all and didn't get paid. The client I spent the least amount of time with improved more than anyone I've ever coached. 200 people got better, and I did get paid. This is very humbling.
Yeah. For
those of your listeners with a background in mathematics, I made a chart. On one dimension, it was called the time spent with Marshall Goldsmith. The other was improvement. There was a clear negative correlation between spending time with me and getting better. So I thought, well, this is a very troubling chart. So I go talk to my client who improved the most, I spent the least amount of time with, who was ranked 2014 the greatest leader, number 1 great CEO in America, number 3 greatest leader in the world by Fortune magazine. Alan Mulally was the CEO of Ford. Stock went from $1 to 18 when he was there. An amazing man. 97% approval rating from all employees in a union company. They worship this guy.
Wow.
Just a great leader. So I talked to my friend Alan. I said, Alan, of all the people I've ever coached, you improved the most, but I spent the least amount of time with you. And I showed him my chart. I said, the way this chart looks, if you'd never met me, you'd really be good. So I said, what should I learn about coaching from you? He said, 2 lessons. Lesson 1, your biggest challenge is great customers. You have great customers. Your coaching process always works. You have terrible customers, it never works. And number two, never make coaching about yourself and your own ego and how smart you think you are. Make it about those special people you work with, how hard they work, and how proud you are of them. Oh, these were great lessons. And he said, as a CEO of Ford, my job wasn't that different. You know what? He said, I don't design the cars. I don't build the cars. I don't sell the cars. I have to have great people. He said, every day I drove to work, I tell myself, leadership's not about me. Leadership's about them.
For sure.
These are hard lessons to get, by the way, especially for coaches. Let me practice with you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Have you ever tried to change the behavior of a husband that had no interest in changing before? And how'd that work out for you?
Not well at all. As a matter of fact, it ended up in a big, ugly divorce, actually.
Yeah. How about mommy and daddy? Have you tried that out? Yeah, let's change mommy and daddy who don't want to change. Ever tried that?
Yeah.
How's that work out?
It does not work.
It does not work.
Requires a lot of breathing.
A lot of breathing. I was teaching my class at Dartmouth. So I said, any of you trying to change the behavior of mommy and daddy that don't want to change? One raised her hand. I said, are you trying to change mommy or daddy? She said, daddy. So I asked her, what's daddy's problem? She said, he does not have a healthy lifestyle. I asked her, how old is daddy? She said, 94 years old.
That's hilarious.
Leave the old boy alone. He's 94. You want to smoke a cigar, old man? Smoke too. Smoke pot. Who cares? He's 94 years old.
That's super funny. Well, those Dartmouth students are very...
Mommy and daddy. Yeah. Let go. How about those minor corrections on teenage children? Oh, let's show the teenage child. Oh, yeah, they love that, don't they?
No.
Yeah, win the big points. All things. Yeah, let go. Not worth it. So the key is great clients. So in my coaching, if my clients are motivated and they want to change, they're willing to work hard, and they're given a fair chance, they always get better.
Yeah.
And if they're not, I'm wasting my time. They're not going to get better.
Yeah. How did
By the way, I always get ranked #1 executive coach. Now why? Nobody's watched me coach anybody. Nobody knows I'm a good coach. I have great clients. I get the #1 clients, and they tell everybody how wonderful I am. Well, nobody thinks I'm a good coach because I said so.
Right.
They think I'm a good coach because all these great people say so.
Yeah.
So I have great clients.
How did you get your first coaching client?
Well, I got into leadership development purely by accident. Then I'll get into coaching. Leadership development, I met a very famous man named Dr. Paul Hersey. He invented situational leadership with Ken Blanchard. And he was kind enough to let me follow him around. So I kind of followed him around and tried to learn to do what he did a little bit. And one day he became double booked. So I said, can you do what I do? I said, I don't know. He said, can you do what I do? I said, I don't know. He said, I'm desperate. Can you do it? I said, I don't know. He said, I'll pay you $1,000 for one day. That was 42 years ago. I was 28 years old. Some poor kid from Kentucky, $1,000. I was making $15,000 a year. I said, I'm going to give it a shot, coach. I went in, I did this program for the Metropolitan Life Insurance Company in New York City. They were so pissed off when I showed up because it wasn't him. But I got ranked first place of all the speakers. So I said, well, send Marshall again. He said, do you want to do this again? And I said, Paul, $1,000 a day, just any day you want. Sign me up. That's how I got into leadership development. And coaching also was pretty much by accident. The CEO said, I got this kid working for us, young, smart, dedicated, hardworking, driven to achieve jerk. He said, it would be worth a fortune to me if I could change his behavior. I said, I like fortunes. He said, I doubt it'll work. I said, maybe it'll work. I said, I doubt it. I said, I got a deal for you. I'll work with him for a year. If he gets better, pay me. You don't get better, it's free. What did he say? Sold. There was nothing called coaching then.
Right.
There was nothing called coaching.
Yeah.
I made this up. There was no field of coaching. So that's how I got into, quote, coaching before it was called coaching. Yeah.
When was coaching actually created? Do you know? Can you identify when that actually happened? No.
I started doing what I was doing 40 years ago.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. But I never heard of the term coaching then. I mean, somebody may have been doing it, but I never heard of it.
Right.
Yeah.
For So I've got a couple of specific questions around coaching. And I think one of them is being one of the, I'd say the world's top executive coaches. Who coaches you? Where do you go to get better coaching?
I practice something called the daily question process every day.
Okay. Tell us about that.
And the daily question process is a very simple process. It takes 3 minutes a day, help you get better at almost anything, and costs nothing. And I'm going to teach it to all your listeners.
That's
Some
awesome.
people are skeptical. 3 minutes a day, costs nothing. Too good to be true. Half the people quit in 2 weeks. And they don't quit because it doesn't work. They quit because it does work. This is real easy to understand. It's real hard to do. I have a woman call me every day to do this. Why? My name is Marshall Goldsmith. I got ranked #1 coach in the whole world for years. I have a woman call me on the phone every day to do this. Why? I'm too cowardly to do this by myself. I'm too undisciplined to do this by myself, and I need help. And you know what? It's okay. We all need help. I need help. I'm no better than anybody else, and it's okay. Now, how does it work? Well, you write down these questions, 7 boxes across, one for every day of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Every one is answered with a yes, no, or number. At the end of the week, you get a scorecard. I will warn your listeners in advance. That scorecard at the end of the week might not be quite as beautiful as a corporate values plaque you see stuck up on the wall. Yeah. I've been doing this for years. You do this every day, you know what you quickly learn? You learn that life is incredibly easy to talk. And life is incredibly difficult to live. If you do this every day, you don't look at those talk values. Oh, those are pretty. You look at those live values. They're not so good. One of my questions every day is, how many times yesterday did you try to prove that you were right when it wasn't worth it?
Oh, that's one of your current questions?
How many times did you try to prove you were right when it was not worth it? You know, I don't see too many zeros on that column for me. Kind of hard for that old professor not to prove he's right all the time. How many angry or destructive comments did you make about people yesterday? I'm not seeing enough zeros there either. We want to treat people with respect. Why are we stabbing people in the back? You do this every day. It's very, very sobering. Very sobering. Because you realize there's a big difference between talk and do. And everybody talks a great game, but they don't want to look at that do game. It's hard. It's hard to look in that mirror day after day after day after day after day. And I'm not exaggerating. The reason to have someone call me every day is I'm smart enough to realize how hard it is. I know I wouldn't do it by myself. It's too hard.
Yeah. I do remember you training on that. And I'm just curious, is that identified in any of your books that you would point?
Triggers goes
Triggers,
into
it's triggers.
that.
Okay, fantastic. Just curious, did you change your 7 questions at all for the 2020 New Year, or are you you've got this locked down? It's the 7 most.
Just modify it a little bit. I modified some of my questions. I changed the process a little bit. I'm going to institute a whole new coaching program now, starting in 2020.
But that's exciting.
My friend Alan Mulally, I mentioned, with C.L. Ford. He has a brilliant management system. He and I are doing a new book together. He has a brilliant management system, and we're combining my coaching process with his management system.
That's exciting. And so that's being rolled out now?
Every week. Well, no, the book will be for a while, but I'm doing it now.
Okay.
Every week, the Thinkers 50 Top 8 coaches, all 8 of us are going to talk in a conference like this every week about how we can do better. Nice. See, I think that's a very positive thing. Number one, this is Thinkers 50 Top 8 coaches in the world every week. Sends a lot of messages. Message number one is we're not better than anyone else. We're just humans like the rest of people here. Number 2, we need help. And number 3, we're not competing and showing off and trying to prove how better we are. We're all just trying to help each other.
Yeah.
So I think for the field of coaching, it's very positive.
I would agree. What would you attribute to your success snowball, for lack of a better term?
Build a brand.
Build a brand. Okay. Okay.
Build a brand. Most coaches, or many coaches, I don't know most, many coaches are excellent coaches and terrible business people. Many coaches are really good coaches, but they're really bad business people. And the average ICF coach makes what, $35,000 a year from coaching? They make less than a bag boy. It's embarrassing how little they make. It's terrible. Well, they're terrible business people. You have to realize there's the coaching side and the business side. Many coaches have incredible problems with self-promotion. Have you ever had any self-promotion phobia yourself?
I have, as a matter of fact.
Well, get over it.
Yeah.
Have you ever had this thought, my good work should speak for itself? Have you ever had that thought?
Well, I think everyone has had that thought for sure.
Not me.
No.
I never had that thought. That is a silly thought. If your good work should speak for itself, no company would need a marketing function.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
your good work's God's not going to fly out of the sky and recognize your good work, right? You got to be your own marketing department.
So what would
and if you're not, I commend you for doing this podcast. Why? Marketing is good, very good. Shows some courage on your part and getting out there and there. So my advice is be the world's expert at something.
Yeah.
Be the world's expert at something. Don't try to be the world's expert. I'm the world's expert at helping successful leaders achieve positive long-term change in behavior. That's it. I'm not the expert at strategy or getting organized or any of those other fields. I am the world's expert at that. If you do a Google search, in quotes, helping successful, in quotes, top 500 hits, 450 are me, and the rest of the world is 50. It's me, 450, rest of world, 50. I'm one. My game. Well, game, not my game. Figure out your game and figure out, I want to be the world's expert at something and drive that. And really focus on building your own brand.
I love that that's what your search terms are known for, and you've just really honed that in. That's fantastic. Do you have any other? How did you build a brand that created that?
Very fortunate. My father is the guy that taught me to do that. He's the one that told me. He said, "Look, just work with great people. You're going to win. Focus your whole coaching on great people." My book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There. What's the subheading? Helping successful people get even better. That's what the book is about. It's not fixing losers. It's helping successful people get even better. Well, that's what the book is about. Now, there's nothing wrong with doing other things. I don't do those other things, though. I do this. And then you have credibility because you're not pretending to do everything for everyone.
Right. Yeah. Well, you are someone that I follow and that I just tremendously look up to for the impact that you're having, not only on the coaching industry, but on the business industry of leadership. So thank you.
So much. Well, and I give everything away. All my material, you may copy, share, download, duplicate, use in church, charity, business, any way you want to. It's all, go to my website, www.marshallgoldsmith.com.
Okay.
I've got 200 or 300 videos, hundreds of articles. It's all free.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that kind of, you just put that out there. Is that the best way for people to follow you? Where are you most active? I see you all the time on LinkedIn.
Go to LinkedIn. I have like 1.3 million followers on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So LinkedIn is the best. I would go to LinkedIn, go to my website. It's not hard. YouTube, go to my YouTube channel. I've had over 3 million views of my videos. So, and the nice thing, it's all free.
Right. Absolutely.
Sometimes people send me notes from corporations saying that I need approvals. I approve everything anyway, but if you need approvals, I'm happy to sign something. I mean, on the website, it says it's all free.
Yeah. I love your abundance. That is really fantastic. I'm getting older. I'm 70, almost 71, and
We're all going to be equally dead here. So might as well do a little good.
Well, I think you're doing a lot of good.
Do a little good while I'm here.
Yeah.
So always many people thinking, yeah.
In sort of my wrap-up thoughts, you've written, you said 41 books. You're working on another one right now, so 42 on its way. And my two top go-tos are Triggers and What Got You Here Won't Get You There.
Those are the two best ones.
Those are the best ones?
Yeah, I'd recommend those two.
Okay. Well, that was going to say, is there another book that you'd recommend that I should suggest?
Yeah, the other ones I've written that I would recommend are Mojo.
Mojo, okay.
That's a good one. And then for women, How Women Rise. Sally Helgeson is the lead author. I did that with her.
Yeah, I loved that one too.
Yeah, she's by the way, the top 4 books I did all have one thing in common. They're all incredibly well written. Now, why can I say that without bragging? I didn't write any of them. No, a lot of my ideas, but I don't write them. I'm a good writer, but my 3 biggest selling books, which are What Got You Here Won't Get You There, Mojo, and Triggers, were all written by my friend Mark Ryder. He's my agent and co-writer. He writes the books. I have most of the ideas, and he does the writing. He is a phenomenal writer. We're writing a new book together now called The Earned Life. He is an amazing writer, and he's a great agent. So we split everything 50-50. We have a great partnership. And another learning for your listeners, don't feel the need to do it yourself.
Yeah,
I didn't write those books. It's okay. It's okay. We split everything 50-50. I got the ideas. I get the brand. I give him ideas. He writes. We work together. We have a book. And he's my agent. Our book Triggers, he came to me and said, Marshall, I have a new idea for this book. I think we should call it Triggers. What do you think? I said, that's a stupid idea. Triggers. This is the dumbest idea I ever heard of. Triggers. Sounds like a gun or a horse. He said, how dumb is it? I said, it's so dumb. I can't even believe you brought it up. He said, I've just been to the publisher. I got offered $1.2 million advance for a book called Triggers. How you feel about that book? I said, hey, let's do that thing. Turned out #1 New York Times bestseller. Oh, well.
That's
so much for my knowledge. Hey, it's good to have good partners.
It sounds like it is. That's a great story.
One final thing I want to talk about, though.
Yeah, please.
100 Coach Project. So I went to a program called Design the Life You Love. The woman said, who are your heroes? My heroes were kind and generous people who are great teachers. She said, you should be more like them. I'm pretty generous, but I thought I could do better. I decided to adopt 15 people, teach them all I know for free. And the only price is when they get old, they have to do the same thing. I made a little video and put it on LinkedIn. I said, my name is Marshall. I got ranked #1 leadership thinker, #1 coach, #1 book. I'm going to adopt 15 people, teach them all I know for free. And the only price is when you get old, you have to promise to do the same thing. I thought 100 people would apply. So far, over 18,000 people applied for adoption.
Wow.
Now I've adopted over 200 people, and it's just been an amazing project. So I've got some coaching for you. Look at the list of people. Now they're adopting people. Find some person you really like and get them to adopt you. And then later, you adopt someone else.
That's beautiful.
And the people are amazing. These are like president of the World Bank and the former head of the Girl Scouts and the head of the Mayo Clinic and the dean of Harvard Medical School. And I just got a text today from Pau Gasol, a pro basketball player, and just an amazing group of people. And the whole thing is no money, it's all free. And the only rules are there's no money, there's no guilt, there's no expectation. You just help others.
Thank you for all that you do, Marshall.
Thank you.
I think that sort of, you've kind of answered all of my questions and you've just added that extra bonus, really abundant perspective. Is there anything I didn't think to ask you that you wanted to also bring up?
One final advice.
Yeah.
Always my best advice. Take a deep breath. Imagine you're 95 years old and you're getting ready to die. What advice would the old person have for you? What advice would that old person have for you? Well, whatever you think about, do that. Some friends of mine interviewed old people on the personal and professional side, 3 types of advice. #1, on the personal side, be happy now.
Yeah.
Not next week, not next month. Be happy now. I don't know you, but I'm guessing you have many blessings.
Yes.
You know, many people I work with, you have friends, you have family, you have health. Compared to me, you have youth. You know, don't get so busy chasing what you don't have, you can't see what you do have. Learning point number 2 is friends and family. Don't get so busy climbing the corporate ladder, you forget the people that love you. And then number 3, if you have a dream, go for it. Because you don't go for it when you're 35, you may not when you're 85. And the business advice is much different. Have fun. Life is short. Do whatever you can do to help people. And then the final advice is, go for it. Old people, we almost never regret the risk we take and fail. We always regret the risk that we fail to take. So, finally, thank you so much for inviting me to talk with you.
Thank you, Marshall. Truly a pleasure. And I appreciate everything that you produce, and I look forward to continuing to see your new work as they come out this year.
Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.